Yo, what is up guys, it's Pedro here. So the Washington Commanders just re-signed defensive end Clelin Ferrell. They also are reportedly interested in Azeez Ojulari. So we'll talk about that in today's video. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell as well so you never miss a video. Still traveling, one of the last days, but recording on my phone, so hopefully the audio is okay. But let's talk about Clelin Ferrell first, and then we'll talk about Azeez Ojulari. So Clelin Ferrell, guy that they signed, was a guy that drafted very early in Oakland. I believe when he was there, it was Oakland, and then, later in his career it was Las Vegas. But he signed there, or was drafted there, didn't really live up to expectations with the number 4 overall pick, and then went to the 49ers while Adam Peters was there, and they signed him last year. He was, had some moments. He also was playing hurt, or not, he was dealing with some injuries. So I don't think fully we got to see what he could do, but they're bringing him back. He's a good depth piece, nothing more than that in my opinion. I probably would have just moved on at this point, but it is what it is. Maybe they think that with, a full healthy year, he can really show something. I don't know. But they're just adding a lot of depth options. They have good depth at the defensive line position. It just, they don't have a stud. Maybe Johnny Newton can be that guy. Maybe Daron Payne can go back to being that guy. Maybe Javon Kinlaw can be that guy. But right now they don't have a stud. And definitely not the defensive end position. I mean, Dorrance Armstrong, he's okay. He's decent. I think he has the potential to be like a good edge rusher, a good starting edge rusher, a guy that gets you maybe 10 sacks, but not a stud. I don't think he can be a star in this league. Who knows though? I mean, everyone has, a lot of these guys have potential, so who knows? But that's it on Clelin Ferrell, another guy that they're bringing back. They're bringing a lot of the guys back, which honestly is expected. Made a video yesterday, but Dante Fowler is gone. Not upset about that. He's not great in the run game. He did get a lot of sacks, but I think a lot of those were empty sacks. And he had a lot of penalties. Some of them were, bad calls, but still had a lot of penalties and wasn't good in the run game going to the Cowboys. And then in terms of Azeez Ojulari, so this is he apparently said it on his podcast, so if I'm misquoting it, correct me, but this is what was said on Twitter, was that he said that there has been some interest, or they have checked in on Azeez Ojulari. So that's something to monitor. And if they've checked in, they're clearly at least somewhat interested in signing the guy. That's a guy that I wouldn't mind for sure. I've been talking about that for a minute now. A guy that has had production, but also, is a younger guy and has potential. All right, and we're back. Just had to pause real quick. But yeah, I was just saying with Azeez Ojulari, I think he has potential, but he also has had some good production. I mean, this past year he had 6 sacks. The thing with him is he does deal with a lot of injuries. There was 1 or 2 seasons where he missed a decent amount of games, and even when he does play the games, like if he plays 12, 13 games, a lot of the times he's, playing very injured. So his rookie year was very good. I believe he had 8.5, 9, maybe double-digit sacks. Second-round pick out of Georgia, I believe. I think his brother's in the league as well. He's a guy I definitely would check in on, like, they said, or at least what Kime said they've done. Sorry, just this motion activated, like trying to keep moving it. But Azeez Ojulari would be a good option for the Commanders, and would be, wouldn't be inexpensive, but I don't think it would be, breaking the bank either. So they could get a decent deal for Azeez Ojulari, bring him on the squad, and then maybe draft the guy as well. So then your edge rushers would be Azeez and Dorrance Armstrong starting, and then hopefully your first, maybe early second round edge rusher as your next guy. Maybe they don't want to draft a guy in the second, third round, because here's the thing. If you look at a lot of the top edge rushers in the league, they're first round picks, early first round picks too. So maybe they don't really think they can find an elite edge rusher in the first, and they'll go after a wide receiver in the first round, or a cornerback in the first round, or maybe they won't even draft in the first round. Maybe they'll trade back into the second, mid-second, accumulate some picks for next year, and go from there. I think that's definitely a possibility for them. I don't know. I would probably still, I think something they could do is stick at 29, take an edge rusher that they, think has the measurables that they can develop. And then from there, with that second round pick, trade back like a lot. So trade back 7, 8 spots, and then, potentially get some picks for this year, maybe next year as well, with that third round trade back, and go from there. So that would be my take on the whole defensive end situation. It might take another year. They're taking some swings on some guys, bringing back Clelin Ferrell, a low risk, potential high reward signing because he, was a former first round pick, top 5 pick. And then, you have, Baptiste as well. Maybe he can do something. You have Dorrance Armstrong, who's still relatively young, but I don't know. I would bring in Azeez Ojulari, and then you're like, at least you have something going into the season where you're like, all right, he has a chance to be maybe not an elite edge rusher, but he has a chance to be a good edge rusher. And then you still try to find that elite guy down the line, maybe in the draft in 2026. I know that's far down the line. Or you could try to get someone in free agency. Maybe I was talking about 2026, but that brought to my mind Trey Hendrickson. That's still a possibility, but apparently their asking price is a lot. A first round pick, apparently. That's not something I would even remotely consider for the Commanders at this point. With where their draft capital is, I just don't see a trade happening. A first round pick, no. A second round pick, it's hard to justify right now after the Laramie Tunsil trade. They want to do it. Maybe it makes sense, but I don't know. For me, that's not something the Commanders should do, and you're gonna have to pay them a lot of money. I think they made enough of those big trades this offseason and the trade deadline with Tunsil, Debo, and Marshawn Lattimore. At this point, let's try to get younger. So they did get some guys in free agency like Javon Kinlaw that are younger, and even Debo. He's not too old, but I like that Kinlaw signing was like interesting in some ways, where it's like, all right, he's an old, not an older guy. He's a guy that maybe they overpaid a little bit, but we'll see. But he's also younger and was a former first round pick and has shown some flashes in his career. So it's time for him to put it all together. And I think he did work with Daryl Tapp as well. But I'm trying to think of some, like Will Harris. I like that signing, a somewhat young guy and has shown some flashes. Maybe he can pop a little bit more in Washington. But I hope they start to make some more of those type of signings, like at wide receiver. I wouldn't mind an Elijah Moore type signing, a younger guy that has produced a little bit in the league, but has some potential. You could sign him as a wide receiver 3, and I think that would really complete the wide receiver room and would fill one of the bigger holes that they have right now, which is wide receiver 3. I would say the biggest holes right now: running back, wide receiver 3, which I think they can easily fill, but it's just how good of wide receiver 3 do they get. But yeah, we'll continue to see. They're going to continue to make signings, re-sign guys, maybe get a guy, like Zacchaeus, or Zacchaeus already left, but maybe a guy like Crowder back in the building. And they got Noah Brown, so I guess that could be their wide receiver 3. I do like that re-signing for sure, but they still got some work to do in that wide receiver room, and had some guys. So they have right now, I'm trying to think of how many guys under contract: Terry, Luke, Debo, Noah Brown. That's 4. I'm trying to think of any other guys that they have on the roster. They have around 4, maybe 5 guys, and they'll bring in another free agent. They lost Yami Brown and Zacchaeus. Those are the guys they lost from the receiver room, but they gained Debo, and they'll probably draft the guy, bring in some undrafted free agents as well. But that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.